My son Garrison told me we were going to lunch. Instead, he drove me to Willowbrook Senior Living and informed me I'd be staying there permanently. I'm Veda Merriweather, 64 years old, and I stood in that sterile lobby watching my daughter-in-law Tamsin unload suitcases I hadn't packed from the trunk of their car. "What's happening?" I asked, my voice shaking. Garrison wouldn't meet my eyes. "Mom, we've talked about this. You can't live alone anymore. You're forgetting things, it's not safe." I hadn't forgotten anything, my mind was sharp as ever. But my children had decided I was incompetent. And apparently, that decision was final. Within an hour, I was registered, assigned a room, and abandoned. Garrison kissed my forehead and promised to visit soon. That was 3 months ago, he never came back. Let me explain how I ended up here. My husband Montgomery died 2 years ago from a sudden stroke. We'd been married 43 years. Raised 2 children, built a beautiful life together. Monty left everything to me in his will. Our house, our savings, our investments. It was substantial, about $2 million in total assets. The house alone was worth $800,000. I'd planned to live there until I died, surrounded by memories of the man I loved. But 6 months after Monty's death, Garrison started suggesting I sell the house. "Too big for one person," he said. "Too much maintenance," I refused. Then my daughter Wisteria joined in. "Mom, you're getting older, what if you fall? What if something happens?" Their concern felt hollow. Scripted, I realize now they'd been planning this for months. The week before they took me to Willowbrook, Garrison had me sign several documents. He said they were updates to my will. Power of attorney paperwork, standard legal stuff. I trusted him, he was my son. I signed without reading carefully. Something I'll regret for the rest of my life. Those documents gave Garrison complete control over my finances and medical decisions. They also declared me mentally incompetent due to progressive dementia, a diagnosis I'd never received from any actual doctor. Within days of signing, I was locked in a nursing home. Within 2 weeks, my house was listed for sale. Within a month, it sold for $750,000. And I couldn't do anything to stop it because legally, I no longer had any rights. My children had stolen my entire life with forged medical documents and my own trusting signature. Life at Willowbrook was degrading. The staff treated residents like children. Meals were served at specific times. Activities were mandatory. Privacy was non-existent. My room was small, containing a bed, a dresser, and a chair. I had no access to my phone except during supervised hours. My computer was confiscated because residents don't need technology. I was allowed 1 visitor hour per week. But no one ever came, not Garrison, not Wisteria, not their spouses or my grandchildren. I'd been erased from their lives now that they had my money. Other residents shuffled through hallways, some genuinely needing care, others like me, trapped by greedy families. I made friends with a woman named Eulalie Thompson, 72, sharp as a tack, placed here by a nephew who wanted her condo. We'd sit together and plan impossible escapes. But I had something my children didn't know about. Something Monty and I had kept secret for 40 years. In the basement of our house, behind a false wall panel in the storage room, was a safe, not a small safe. A massive, fireproof, bank-grade safe that Monty had installed himself during a basement renovation in 1985. Inside that safe was $300,000 in cash. Gold coins worth another $200,000, and original stock certificates for a tech company Monty had invested in during the 1990s. Those stocks, which cost him $50,000 originally, were now worth approximately $4 million. The company had grown into one of the largest software firms in the world. We'd kept those certificates physical, old school, locked away. We'd planned to leave them to our grandchildren, a surprise inheritance that would change their lives. My children had no idea the safe existed. Monty and I never mentioned it. It wasn't on any insurance documents because the house insurance only covered the regular contents, not hidden valuables. The safe was built into the foundation itself, disguised to look like part of the concrete wall. Unless you knew exactly where to look and how to access the panel, you'd never find it, and even if you did, you'd need the combination, which only Monty and I knew. I'd memorized it decades ago, 1437-0922. The birthdays of our children in month-day format. Garrison was born January 4th, Wisteria March 7th, and then Monty's birthday September 22nd. I'd thought it was sweet, using family dates. Now those numbers represented my only hope of survival. Because without access to that safe, I was trapped here forever, penniless while my children spent my money. I needed to get out, but escaping a nursing home isn't like walking out a door. There were locked units, staff monitoring hallways, cameras everywhere. During my third week at Willowbrook, I'd tried simply walking out the front entrance. An alarm went off immediately. Staff surrounded me, gently but firmly guiding me back inside. The administrator, Mrs. Bellamy, sat me down and explained that for my own safety, I wasn't permitted to leave alone. My son had specifically requested security measures. I was, essentially, imprisoned. After that, I became more careful. I observed patterns. Staff changes happened at 3 p.m. and 11 p.m. The front door required a code, but the service entrance in the kitchen sometimes stayed propped open during delivery hours. The night security guard fell asleep around 2 a.m. most nights. I filed away every detail, waiting for the right opportunity. Meanwhile, I needed information about what was happening to my assets. During supervised phone time, I called my bank and asked to speak with my account manager. Miss Lennox Hartwell, she was hesitant, explaining that my son now had power of attorney and had given instructions that I shouldn't have account access. I'm not asking for access, I said carefully. I'm asking if you can tell me, as a courtesy, what happened to the money from my house sale. Lennox was quiet for a long moment. Mrs. Merriweather, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but that money was transferred into accounts in your son's name. He claimed it was to manage your care expenses, $750,000 to manage my care at a facility that cost $4,000 monthly. The math didn't work. Garrison had stolen everything, and the bank had facilitated it because he had legal documents declaring me incompetent. I asked Lennox if there was anything I could do. You'd need to prove you're mentally competent, she said gently. Get an independent medical evaluation. Challenge the power of attorney in court. But Mrs. Merriweather, that requires a lawyer. And lawyers require money. Do you have access to any funds? I almost said no, then I remembered the safe. If I could access certain assets my son doesn't know about, could that help? Lennox's voice became very careful. If you have assets in your name alone, assets that predate the power of attorney, those might not be subject to his control, but you'd need to physically access them and establish a separate account. She gave me her direct number and told me to call if I ever got out. That conversation became my lifeline. I had a plan now. I just needed to escape long enough to reach my house and open that safe. My opportunity came during a fire drill. Willowbrook conducted monthly fire drills at random times. During the drill, all staff focused on evacuating residents through designated exits. In the controlled chaos, monitoring became less strict. I'd been watching for 3 months, waiting, when the alarm sounded at 2:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. I joined the slow procession toward the emergency exit, then simply slipped away. I walked through the kitchen during the confusion, out the service entrance, and kept walking. I was wearing regular clothes, not a hospital gown, so I looked like any older woman out for a walk. No one stopped me. I made it 6 blocks to a bus stop and took the bus downtown. Every moment, I expected to hear sirens, to be dragged back, but nothing happened. I'd escaped. I had no money, no ID that staff hadn't confiscated, but I was free. I walked to my old neighborhood, my feet aching in shoes I wasn't used to anymore. The facility had kept me in slippers for months. Seeing my house was physically painful. A young couple lived there now, their car in the driveway, children's toys scattered across the lawn that Monty had maintained so carefully. I couldn't just walk up and ask to search their basement. I needed help. I went to my neighbor's house, a woman named Margaret who'd lived next door for 20 years. She opened the door and gasped, "Veda, we thought you'd moved to assisted living. Your son said you were very sick." I explained everything quickly. Margaret's face transformed from shock to rage. "That bastard, come inside right now." She made me tea, let me use her phone. I called the lawyer Lennox had recommended, Mr. Cordovan Pierce, and explained my situation. He agreed to meet me that evening. Mr. Pierce listened to my story with growing anger. "Mrs. Merriweather, what your children did is called elder financial abuse. It's a crime, but proving it requires evidence and resources." I told him about the safe. His eyebrows rose. "If you can access those assets, I can help you file an emergency motion to revoke the power of attorney and challenge your competency declaration. But we need to move fast. Once Willowbrook reports you missing, your son will be notified, he'll come looking. We had maybe 6 hours. Margaret offered to help. She went to the young couple's house and explained there'd been a plumbing issue in her basement that might extend to their house. Could she bring a plumber to check? They agreed, wanting to avoid water damage. Mr. Pierce posed as the plumber. I stayed hidden in Margaret's house, heart pounding while they entered my former home. 30 minutes later, Mr. Pierce called. I found the panel, but I need the combination. I gave him the numbers, barely breathing. Another 10 minutes of agonizing silence. Then my phone rang again. Mrs. Merriweather, you need to see this. They came back to Margaret's house, and Mr. Pierce opened a briefcase. Inside was cash, gold coins, and the stock certificates. He'd photographed everything in the safe before removing it, documenting its location and contents. This is approximately $4.7 million in assets. He said, his voice awed. Your husband was a very smart investor. These stocks have split multiple times. They're worth far more than you thought. I started crying. Monty had provided for me even after death. He'd given me the weapon I needed to fight back. Mr. Pierce immediately arranged an emergency bank appointment with Lennox Hartwell. At the bank, Lennox helped me open a new account in my name alone, depositing the cash and securing the certificates and gold in a safety deposit box. Mr. Pierce filed emergency court documents that same evening, requesting an immediate competency evaluation and challenging Garrison's power of attorney. The court scheduled a hearing for 3 days later, but we had a problem. I couldn't go back to Willowbrook, and I had nowhere to stay. Margaret immediately offered her guest room. Mr. Pierce arranged for a private security guard to watch Margaret's house, concerned that Garrison might become violent when he learned what was happening. That night, safe in Margaret's home, I slept peacefully for the first time in months. I'd reclaimed my life. Now, I just needed to make sure my children faced consequences for what they'd done. Garrison discovered I was missing within hours. He called Margaret's house at midnight, his voice tight with fake concern. Is my mother there? She's wandered away from her facility. We're very worried, Margaret. Bless her, played dumb, Veda. No, I haven't seen her. I thought she'd moved away. Garrison's voice turned cold. If you're hiding her, you could be charged with kidnapping an incompetent person. Margaret hung up. The next morning, Garrison and Tamsin showed up at Margaret's door with a police officer, demanding to search the house. But Mr. Pierce had anticipated this. He'd already filed court documents, establishing that I was contesting my competency declaration. The police officer, seeing legal paperwork showing an active court case, refused to force entry. This is a civil matter now. Sir, you'll need to wait for the judge's ruling. Garrison's face turned purple with rage. He knew he was losing control. The competency evaluation took place 2 days later at Mr. Pierce's office. A court-appointed psychiatrist, Dr. Yolanda Stroud, spent 3 hours with me. She asked about current events, had me solve math problems, tested my memory, and interviewed me about my circumstances. At the end, she looked at me seriously. Mrs. Merriweather, there is absolutely nothing wrong with your cognitive function. You're sharp, aware, and clearly articulate. Who diagnosed you with dementia? I told her no doctor had, that Garrison had fabricated the diagnosis to gain control of my assets. Dr. Stroud's expression hardened. That's medical fraud and elder abuse. I'll be reporting this to the district attorney's office, in addition to providing my evaluation to the court. Her official report declared me fully competent and recommended immediate investigation into how I'd been declared incompetent without a legitimate medical evaluation. The court hearing was scheduled for Friday morning. Garrison arrived with an expensive lawyer. Clearly confident he'd win, he played the concerned son, explaining how difficult it had been watching his mother's decline, how he'd only wanted to protect her assets and ensure quality care. His lawyer presented the documents I'd signed, arguing that I'd been legally declared incompetent by proper procedures. Then Mr. Pierce stood up. He presented Dr. Stroud's evaluation showing I was fully competent. He showed bank records proving Garrison had transferred $750,000 into his own accounts, rather than using it for my care. He presented Willowbrook's billing statements showing my care cost only $4,000 monthly, raising questions about where the rest of the money went. Finally, he revealed the coup de grace. I had independent assets worth nearly $5 million that I'd accessed myself, proving my competence. The judge's expression grew sterner with each revelation. Garrison's lawyer tried to argue, but the evidence was overwhelming. The judge made his ruling quickly. Mr. Merriweather, the evidence shows you obtained power of attorney through fraudulent medical claims and used that authority to steal your mother's assets. The power of attorney is immediately revoked. Mrs. Merriweather's competency is restored. All assets transferred from Mrs. Merriweather's accounts to yours must be returned within 30 days. He paused, looking at Garrison with disgust. I'm also ordering a criminal investigation into elder financial abuse and medical fraud. Bailiff, please ensure the district attorney's office receives a copy of these proceedings. Garrison's face went white. Tamsin started crying. As they were escorted out, Garrison finally looked at me. There was no remorse in his eyes, only hatred that I'd outsmarted him. I felt nothing but relief that I'd escaped his control. The aftermath took months to fully resolve. Garrison was charged with elder financial abuse, fraud, and conspiracy. Tamsin was charged as an accomplice. They both pleaded guilty to avoid trial, receiving 3 years probation, and ordered to pay full restitution plus penalties. Wisteria, my daughter, claimed she'd been manipulated by Garrison and hadn't known the full extent of the fraud. I didn't believe her, but prosecutors couldn't prove her direct involvement. I cut her off completely anyway. She'd visited me exactly 0 times in that nursing home. That told me everything I needed to know about her love. I used part of my restored assets to buy a beautiful condo downtown. Smaller than my old house but perfect for me. I invested the rest wisely, ensuring I'd never be vulnerable again. I also established a foundation to help other elderly people fight financial exploitation by family members. I'm 65 now, living independently and happily. Margaret remains my closest friend, the sister I never had. I volunteer 3 days a week helping elderly people navigate legal systems designed to protect them, but often used against them. Eulalie Thompson, my friend from Willowbrook, successfully fought her nephew's guardianship with my help and foundation support. She's living free now too. As for Garrison and Wisteria, they're dead to me. I left them nothing in my updated will. Everything goes to my foundation and to Margaret's grandchildren, who visit me weekly and call me Grandma Veda. The most important lesson I learned is this: never trust anyone completely with your assets, even your own children. Always maintain independent resources. Always read legal documents carefully. And if someone tries to declare you incompetent, fight back with every resource you have. That safe in my basement saved my life. Monty's foresight gave me the power to reclaim my freedom. I'll never stop being grateful for that gift. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe and comment where you're watching from. Elder financial abuse is real and devastating. Always maintain control of your own assets. Never sign documents without reading them carefully. And if someone tries to take your independence, fight back with everything you have. Your freedom is worth protecting. Thank you for listening. Never sign power of attorney documents without independent legal review. Maintain separate emergency funds family doesn't know about. Challenge competency declarations with independent medical evaluations. Elder abuse is a crime. Report it immediately. Before you go, I need to know something. What hit you the hardest? The betrayal. The moment everything fell apart. The twist you never saw coming. Drop it in the comments right now. And tell me what you want to see next. Medical fraud, family secrets, financial crimes, hidden identities. Your ideas become our next stories. If this story kept you glued to the screen, hit that like button. If you want more shocking true stories that expose the truth, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss what's coming next. Thanks for letting me share this story with you. The next one drops soon, and it's going to shake you even harder. See you there.